Welcome back, everyone. This is Sethikus Boza, blackearthproductions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. Here now with a new segment, going into things that I feel are pertinent in terms of the procession. A lot of what I'm going to be getting into is going to go a bit deeper in terms of what I've already touched upon in context. Before I get started with that, there was a moon transit in Scorpio and was basically a celestial strike working to cancel everything that was unleashed almost a year ago now, taking things back on the procession 26,000 to 50,000 years ago. Now, in terms of elemental consciousness, Plutonian energy is the most powerful in terms of transformation, and basically struck the hook points within the dark grids that was essentially pulling everything into all of this sub-realm amplified bullshit. So if any of that has been happening, if anybody has been experiencing, it's to go to what I said in terms of it being lifted. I've also had some really strange things happen in terms of dream states. But again, what I've spoken about in terms of dream states, we must be objective with everything. And as I've stated before, in order to seal off the rift, I'm going to spare certain details going back to things, but we'll also share a bit more to consider with this segment. Again, none of this is focus in terms of path work. This is meant for awareness. And as I've stated, two things in terms of what focus actually should be. It's everything beyond what I'm not only going to be exposing, but sharing what it is that we should be focused on here. Look, I know this has not been an easy task moving through anything that we have been, but the energies are indefinitely becoming lighter for some of us while others are still moving through things. And it's okay if you are, because things are going to lift. And if certain things didn't happen to the procession to prevent what the actual fucking intention was to offset what has been ordered by the universe, then there would have been an actual fucking cataclysm like there was before. The line was held, and it is still being held. And in terms of where things are going, if anyone is dealing with anything to the idea to that, I'm going to encourage you to cancel and reject all of that out of your thought life. All of it is only old to the last procession in context, going into things that have happened in this lifetime now in terms of what we've actually been moving through. It's to know the difference, to see the difference, to feel the difference, and to know the difference. And those that have been doing this, no matter where you are, you're going to the next levels in terms of integration and capacity, be it physically, mentally, or spiritually. Also, if anyone out there feels that their internal magic is starting to return again now, know what I'm speaking of in terms is nothing to do with any inverted systems that have been implemented. You know my stance in context, and words and the things that we speak forth must be put in context. I'm speaking about our true magic, your true magic. And this is why. Shit, again, it's been so unbelievably fucked with, as many of the listeners here have been able to consider. From here, though, in terms of what I'm getting at, if anything decides that they want to send malevolence, it's going to come back 20 fucking times harder on the source of that if anything is attempted. It's as I've stated, they cannot stop what is coming. So in terms of Scorpio in the 12th house, in context to the transit that I started to mention, the veils that have been keeping the true internal magics of the shaman and magus in terms of gates is being lifted, and will be continuing to happen with the rapid fire transformation and transitions that have been taking place since solstice. Things are going to be set back into alignment. Mark my words. Remain focused. The compass and proper grids were lined out over a decade ago and are going to start to be lit up. And to this, take care of your evocations, what you say in posts or in your own segments, and things in terms of life with this specific Mercury retrograde and from here on out. Certain alliances are going to be forged and others reforged, and will systematically be happening in order to make things better than they were. And those that know, it is optimistic what I'm saying here. Again, not bypassing anything, but simply hold the line. Stay focused. We continue to make it through a lot in terms of things that have actually never happened before or could have happened before to what's been laced out. The fact is, though, that it's burning to ash unto the rise of the internal dragon wolf that is happening. And to that, you can take it to whatever symbolism you want in context to eternal axioms, principles, and fundamentals. This is just how I choose to express myself in context of what I'm getting at. All right, so to start getting into the meat of this specific segment, to the roots of the issue, a very real geometric level, let alone come to discover what the geometrics are that are far, far beyond it, that we must be working to tap into. What you see to the middle here is what has stood in place of our true freedom, opposing that all the ways that it does to the many multiple structures within our reality in terms of sound, consciousness, energy, frequency, and vibration, and the convergence into physicality here in context. I encourage everyone to hear what I'm going to say. And the truth is, we must dismantle all of this, crack these inverted reversal codes, break these curses, which have been lifting, by the way, to the incoming energies we've been experiencing, and also with other knowledge that has been coming forth confirming what I'm actually saying here. And I get how the flux can come through with individuals considering, again, though, as I've stated, we are still closer than we have ever been before, and in a sense have been moving through some uncharted territory in terms of what is integrating past what I'm going to be exposing here a little bit more. And what you see before you is an illustration of the actual geometry of the tesseract. Another term for this is the dark cube matrix that is held, again, by the inverted energies of Saturn, which again, to the angles or angels of this geometric structure, all designed to siphon life force energy and route it back into their black hole systems. Saturn's cube holds a massive tank that acts as a harvesting station. And the main way that this takes place is all out fucking war, infighting, contention, all of these things that take place to disrupt harmony in terms of what's happening within ourselves and with one another. And so to make it obvious why Saturn has been long associated with an assortment of blood-worshipping cults, such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, it is to note that Saturn is also the solar seventh gate into the gates of wisdom, being inverted in terms of willful ignorance and chaos. It has been used to pump out reversal violet ray plasma light. In other words, you could say the false cold light. These reversal plasmas are designed to ignite and feed that demon seed that exists within the shadow self or inverted forms of the masses. Additionally, this quote-unquote alien construct was used to impale crucifixion implants on the vertical axonal lines of the planetary body, which have also messed with the vertical channel alignment of the planetary staff itself. And to that, you can take it back to what I get into in terms of the wand of fire. The systems here in context is what leads back to the black hole system from a dark star that is located at the center of our galaxy. This is the tesseract that stands in the way of the central sun core ignitions. Again, everyone, the heavens above are within us, okay? So take it to the system mechanics. Stop looking through a fucking telescope and go within. Take it back to the law of correspondence. There's no getting away from this. And it's all very simple once you see it for what it is, and also the dismantling. And it was the Metatronic Collective thousands of years ago took over the four cardinal directions. This is a verified fact, and it's obvious to assume that all of these fallen Anu entities decided that they were our gods and decided to implement a variety of mind control mechanisms by spreading religious belief systems. Again, this is one of the most ancient systems of mind control that was created, playing upon the codes, having taken and inverted all of the knowledge that was already present here in terms of this reality field, so that humans would end up worshiping the gods instead of seeing them in their original format in terms of symbolism when it comes to study. It also correlates to the taking over of all the numerical 4 and Master Builder 22 constructs that are used in morphogenetic fields as blueprints for matter. Each of the pillars relates to one of the 4 cardinal directions. Again, like I said, taking it back to the original pure codex, white dragon is of the north, black dragon is of the south, yellow dragon is of the east, and red dragon is of the west. And so to the inversion, or the quote-unquote governance over its angelic angel hierarchy, calling on this specific system in terms of the tetragrammaton. It is common in quote-unquote squaring the circle, which is how certain dark rituals can take place, inverting the concept and sets the directions in an energetic space. This has been used in much of what has been presented via the New Age movement that are bound to systems in terms of Kabbalah, like I've stated, and has been proven that we worship these things in context. Now, to pull in some quote-unquote scripture, it's very interesting, as it states in Revelation 9:11. And please note the time code as well as the number code of 911, described as the destroyer, the angel of the abyss. And I'm not going to mention it again. The abyss must be sealed the fuck off. Do not stare headlong into all of this bullshit, everybody. I'm sharing this again in terms so that you really, really get it now. All right? Abaddon is also the artificial axial tilt with the earth that is shifting its alignment now. And all the shit that has been agitated to play out these quote-unquote mind-controlled biblical dramas. This is why things to the mythos is sound in terms of the hour that we are in terms of what has been taking place, and then even further in context of what is coming. Whatever the case still at the moment, some other things to consider here. All of the AI tech that we're fucking dealing with is a psychotronic warfare strategy instilled into the planetary grid system that is being directed at the population in the attempt to enslave the consciousness of Earth. And from this point in the timeline, AI technology was set into perpetual motion to assimilate the realities from the damaged Stargate, where certain things were gained to dominion in order to control access in and out of the Earth realm. They gradually brought down an assorted, malevolent alien machinery through an inorganic vertical wormhole. Okay, and this all goes back to fucking Sakura, everybody. In artificial architecture, they built programmable reversals in terms of elemental consciousness. And this is where we set things back into alignment, as within, as without. Further, they installed in the vertical axis the Dark Star Matrix Gridworks themselves, which has always been working to replace the planetary staff and allow these black hole parasitic entities, the real fucking enemy we're actually dealing with here, to gain access into the Earth through the North and South poles in order to distort the planetary field. This, again, is why the poles are sealed the fuck off. This is nothing new, but this is what is being routed the fuck out. And this was basically done through, again, genetic modification and set up frequency fences that broadcast extremely low frequencies that make the Earth more hospitable for the survival of the parasite. We are not to house the parasite. And all of the low frequency and static net broadcast that sent out produced the quote-unquote predator mind construct and thought forms intended for mass human parasitism. Divide and conquer tactics, spirits of contention, be the cause point for infighting and spreading the idea of all-out fucking war. These artificial nets and constructs were further designed to progressively pull the Earth and her world soul into the inorganic black hole bullshit. These were subspace and hyperdimensional pockets. And so here, the Metatronic nets used to cloak ships or bases directing these goddamn fucking energy weapons and all this other shit. This was used as a malevolent alien defense system so that no one could essentially pass beyond the metagalactic zones. Again, those of us that know the difference in this reality field and the work that we have been doing on all the levels that it has been expressed has been a part of dismantling this construct. Within this construct, though, that I'm sharing with you, everything that we are dealing with in the third dimension on a multidimensional level, going all the way into the sixth dimension in terms of step-down consciousness, this is where it's happening. And to explain this in depth cannot be done in one dissertation. And I've touched upon the Metatronics, but it's to remember what our focus is past all of this and to be objective with everything else I'm sharing here otherwise. This specific dissertation is going to show you how to dismantle this. Have I cracked the code? Yes, I have cracked the code. And where it breaks is first within ourselves, so that these certain gridworks of consciousness that have been laced out don't have the effect on our lives that they have. Now, to explain, if you look closely, you can see the two intersecting triangles, right? This is what makes the quote-unquote Star of David, or Solomon's Seal, or whatever people want to call it. And as I've explained before, this is actually the cause point for triangulation when it comes to the positive and negative charge of the energy force itself. Throwing energy into geometric constructs that are all tied to this in all the ways that they are, which are designed to literally trap sound, consciousness, energy, frequency, and vibration in physicality into these structures through which everything to do with the quote-unquote lockdown equation, which again is the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. The cube in the middle is the most dense geometrical structure that exists in reality. Yes, it's a part of things, but this is what all of this quote-unquote lockdown consists of, everybody. And again, it's nothing new. This has been around since before all of us incarnated. But in terms of the procession and where things are going, it's important to see all of this again for what the fuck it is. Also, I know that individuals out there are still privy to certain geometrical structures that are keyed into this. And the fact is, again, like I've stated, much of the quote-unquote sacred geometry that was pumped out by the New Age movement happened on purpose to, in a sense, reinforce this equation to be set off by the signal that went out to fire these things off even harder when it fucking happened. And if you notice how other angles of the construct shoot out from the cube itself, you could easily put the equation to advanced vortex mathematics into this and easily see what I'm getting at. Again, going into a 6D geometrical structure if it were to be seen differently. Whatever the case, though, again, the fulcrum of the circle is not a part of this equation. That has been taken out, like I have explained. And the two triangles that intersect take that out of the equation, even though Ingwaz is seen with this. It's the diamond right in the center around everything else. And it's the portal which opens via the heart center when what you see before you is dismantled in terms of step-down consciousness. Most of the sound that individuals experience, even on a multidimensional level, happens here. And it's not to get power over the spirits and entities and whatever malevolent alien factions or whatever else is assumed. All of that goes back to the parasite in terms of what brings things into entropy and stagnation. That is what chaos is, not anything in terms of catharsis, which is also a part of things here in context to breaking apart and dismantling these things in terms of our voice and our evocations when it comes to sound and our bodies. It is not to dismiss, again, the physical body, for without it, we would not be able to actually gain access to gridworks of consciousness that are beyond all of this. Again, everybody, the higher force is real. And despite our flaws, despite our setbacks, despite our imperfections, the higher force wants us very much to believe in ourselves and hold ourselves to a position to be empowered and to also speak life and empowerment to those around us, as long as it depends on us. And see, much of the dismantling happens when you can see all of those things for what the fuck they are and not allow yourself to assume identity with it whatsoever. This, of course, is a process integration that is happening, as it has been. It has to be done at pace, especially in terms of the procession with the new energies that have been coming through. And I'll tell you firsthand, to my personal experience with the new energies, it's been challenging because, again, as stated, we are now starting to integrate from a 7D standpoint, which is all still basically held up like a dam in terms of the gates of wisdom, pressing up against all of this inverted shit in context to fucking Saturn, taking to certain gates on the solar spiral creation. It's like I've said, Libra, and all it may consist of in terms of relations, which is the integration process that's been taking place, and is one of the main ones that must be accessed in order for this to happen. And as I've also stated, in order for the wisdom of the magicians of the elements to reveal themselves, and also the energy of shaman going into the 13D to 15D access points within the core ignition that could happen for individuals in terms of pathwork trajectory. What you can see with this in terms of observation is also the cross of the shaman and the 4 cardinal directions, which is also in the background and context of what you can see here. All of that, which is in the middle of the fucking hexagon, right? You see the fucking hexagon right in the middle, is the overlay, the geometric overlay in context to its structure And this again happens when the two intersecting triangles form the dark star, and also goes back to the inverted energies of Saturn, which in a sense you can say has ruled the material realm in all the ways that it has for far too fucking long. And to all of this, listen, there's nothing wrong with the material realm. What's wrong is our state of fucking mind. It always comes back to this. The whole concept of being in the world but not of it, this is what I'm getting at. You're not of that obsession when it comes to things. Just like it says in Fight Club, what you end up owning owns you. The real question is, do you own yourself? Or are you owned by all the material things around you, thinking that it's going to fill some kind of fucking void? It doesn't. I don't care how much you extract from these specific gridworks. It will never bring true happiness. It will never bring true fulfillment. But in terms of what most people live for, it stops at that and locks you into the constructs that we see around us in terms of obsession when it comes to consciousness. A consumer society, again, only dedicated to the outwork and focused to this when there's so much more to behold. Here's also where we see the square and the circle, which again, in context of alchemy, comes to the mystery between men and women. Again, in terms of triangulation and polarity, what you see in the middle of everything has also been the cause point for the divide and conquer between men and women. And also the coming together therein, the right way. All of this bullshit needs to be seen for what it is and overcome. All I know is that this can and will be dismantled in ways that we have never seen before. This is heard. They can see and know what I'm sharing and do the inner and outer work in order to make that happen. And it's not to overcomplicate things in terms of this specific equation. Fact is, all the older the trick and the more simple the trick, the easier it is to pull and assumes consciousness in terms of how so many people have fucking fallen for this fucking shit. It's how they've hidden certain things in plain sight. So in context to symbolism, again, this is 101. And all of this is extremely old in terms of the procession. It's as I've stated in terms of the underpinning geometry of the universe, that there are geometrical structures in context to mathematics that are more pristine and pure and far more powerful, that are working to be integrated into the mechanics of our energy systems. This right here was created by a specific student based upon some of the things I've shared. Again, all of the knowledge that has gone forth is for those to whom it's meant. And again, all of this is 101 anyways. It needs to be 101 in terms of the basis, in terms of proper foundation. Now look at the difference here in context to the geometries. Again, the true flower of life, which I've stated is a 4-petaled flower that's right in the center of the equation here. And this is what is felt and experienced in terms of the hardcore ignition that can and does take place when the higher force is accessed. It's the blossoming forth. It's that eternal blossom. Okay? And again, it's not to negate anything in terms of geometries. We all have to see them for what they are. This, though, specifically does not trap sound, consciousness, energy, frequency, or vibration. In fact, what it produces is the expansion of that therein. In fact, it breaks apart the quote-unquote lockdown equation when, again, 0 and 9 are in alignment, so that you can hear and see from the first eye in terms of gridworks of consciousness that are beyond and from within, which is what thought and emotion are encouraged to come into alignment with. So also to see all of the lower gridworks for what they are in order to be transmuted and transcended while being here in this reality field. It's not happening on the other side. It's happening here. This is why we are here. See, most of the occult material, even in context of what has been quote-unquote de-occult, it goes back to the first equation. And not much is known about what I'm showing you here as a preview of what can be, again, accessed into this with the gridworks of consciousness that are beyond all the fucking lockdown bullshit. And it's not to compare or contrast, since everyone is where they are, but by putting ourselves in the position to be ever learning, and to be teachable, with also the ability to think critically. That way it can become self-evident. These are living arts and sciences, or they're the sciences of entropy, chaos, and stagnation. What I'm sharing with you needs to become common knowledge in terms of alternative media, spiritual media, and occult media in context to Reformation. If we're meant to be coming into a new Renaissance, Age of Aquarius, then Reformation has to take place. Again, take it back to the foundation, everybody. And it's when much of the quote-unquote Magi Grail shaman went through what they fucking did. So in terms of retribution, in terms of recompense, this is what it all comes back to here in context. And to access what is past in terms of what is being observed here must be experienced. This is the real measure in terms of what I'm getting at. And one of the main things that has been coming to me, and in terms of integration, no matter how it seems right now, it is happening. All of this, what I'm getting at here, goes back to the fulcrum. It goes back to the very first gate within the circle. And again, what is experienced when the core ignition takes place and works to push out and purge everything else in terms of step down consciousness that has locked everything into the fucking tesseract in terms of its dismantling. It's not to fuck with the box of Pandora. Look, you don't want to fuck with any of this shit that is not to be ignited, rather dismantled, so that none of it pulls sound consciousness, energy, frequency, and vibration into it. It's as I have stated, the rift must be sealed off in terms of transcendence and transmutation. You don't have to stare headlong into any of it. Yes, again, we must be aware of these things in context to anything that I presented. But again, it's only for awareness, not focus. So to our focus in terms of accessing gridworks of consciousness that are beyond what most have seen, the way it works, if you do things right, the way it's done, energetically and geometrically, the way it works is by pulling the triangles out on themselves, making an hourglass. This, as I've explained, brings harmony to the positive and negative charge of the energy force. This is what brings things into harmony. This is what ignites the one of fire, as I have explained. And it happens at the seventh gate with the energies that have been coming through since solstice. So here, in terms of this dissertation, it's to know the difference. Like I said, I've cracked the code. And now being able to present it to the procession and where things are at the moment, it is time to acknowledge certain things that are beyond set limitations and set barriers that keep shit locked the fuck down. We're gonna go into a break now. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. We are back now from the break. Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. And again, on a note, I want to make very, very clear in terms of what's been exposed that this has nothing to do with anything that I condone in terms of the Tesseract when it comes to this platform, when it comes to anything that I present in terms of path work and what my focus is past all this shit. Again, this is meant for awareness to know the difference in terms of what it actually represents, what must be dismantled, seen for what it is, and going into the codex in terms of what I was also able to share beyond all of this, which you see before you right now. Power of the higher force through the heart is what is happening here. And if you don't know about this specifically to the picture, I get it. Okay, because mathematics in context is not well mentioned in terms of geometrics being the true language of mathematics. But in terms of geometric constructs and what I sense and what I feel and what I pick up on with them, things I've seen in terms of the underpinning geometry of the universe will blow people's minds. If I could put my eyeballs into your skull so that you could see, right? It transcends so much in terms of integration and the groundedness that you actually experience in terms of what I'm getting at here. Yeah, the contrast around you will increase. But again, it's all about seeing it for what the fuck it is. I encourage anyone that has not lined things out for the initiation session in terms of service with the mystery school to line things out. All of the advanced teaching, it is not yet made available to anybody. Why? Because it's not time for that. And all of this is very specific to the individual, for we must all come to know thyself. This is the groundwork. Nothing else is going to be navigated otherwise correctly. And here, when the portal of Ingwas opens, again, as you observe, the energetic block, the geometrical block that is keeping the heart center from igniting, and the cross of the shaman being ignited within the portal Ingwas, has been blocked off by what is observed in the middle. The four cardinal directions and cross of the shaman, and the true geometrical structure of the blossoming forth is far more powerful than what you see in the middle of this inverted, triangulated, limited geometric equation. And there stands Ingwas in terms of the true portal to be unlocked. And what you are doing is basically pulling yourself out of the fucking underworld, getting out of all of the underworld cycle bullshit, pulling yourself up and out in terms of focus. When it comes to the heart center, again, the original template is a 3-core chakra system. So pulling yourself up and out of the underworld cycles into the heart, and down from the upper template into the heart center in terms of step down consciousness. And as far as I'm concerned, if individuals want to do this right, it's all about accessing what is even beyond what I'm explaining here from the core ignition to that specific trajectory, and is there to navigate through everything else. I've been speaking about this in so many ways over the years. You yourself are the gate. You are the portal, or you're the veil. Complicated to its inversion and structure on a very real infinite level. The answer to the equation is quite simple. The tesseract here bleeds through a 6D multidimensional geometric structure. It triangulates step-down consciousness from there into 5D, into 4D, and then what we experience here in the third dimension. The key to dismantle all of this is quite simple. Further, at the 7th gate on the solar spiral creation, there to be accessed is the proper knowledge and wisdom that reveals, along with the knowledge and wisdom of the magicians of the elements. Again, these are simply terms that I use to explain the universal laws of metaphysics and the eternal axioms in context to fundamentals and principles. There are other ways of sharing how all of this works, all right? So it's not to limit how I'm explaining it, but in terms, the trajectory of the higher force onto the primal sound fields to be accessed. Where it is first accessed, no matter what the fuck your disposition is within the fulcrum of the circle at the very first gate. So again, all of this is 101 in terms of path work. And if we come into a place of being able to master the basic fundamentals and principles, that is when everything else will start to blossom and come forth to anything advanced. And see, nothing else would make sense otherwise in context to knowledge that is being protected until an individual is ready to experience its access. And if this is to be accessed in terms of your own eternal spirit out of the fulcrum, you will inexorably come into the temple of the true oracle in terms. We're coming out of the age of quote unquote belief into the age of knowing. There's a certain knowing that is there. And the knowing in context of what I'm sharing with you has confirmed itself. And so to be given a certain measure to the true hall of records, I know all of it is very, very real. And again, in terms of research and study, I've been able to confirm very, very profound things on my own accord. I've spoken about and exposed the lockdown in terms of the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 triangulated by the 3, 9, 6 for quite a while now. And again, if the 9th gate is to be accessed within the fulcrum via the wand of fire, and if the circle of the magician is utilized correctly in terms of protocol, by accessing your release to your soul spark, star core ignitions, in terms of Ingwas, and access the higher force, when that portal opens, you will know. You will absolutely know. And when you come to enter the knowing and the power, and when you come to enter the knowing and the power of the level of what real, authentic love is, it's to know the difference as it's been revealed in terms of the higher force and all the ways that it expresses itself here, to the most intimate, to very close to whatever. Okay, all the ways that that expresses itself authentically. This must become focused past everything else in order to gain its momentum from the core. And all of this is very real. And it happens here where we stand and takes you beyond to the other sides. And though I have fluxed in places of wholeness within myself. Okay, we've all fucking fluxed. We've all second guessed. We've all got way into our fucking heads instead of dropping down and grounding and seeing and feeling past. Here's where I choose to keep my heart on fucking fire, no matter what I am thinking or feeling otherwise. And with the same passion, I will be the authentic man that I am. And I want you to be the authentic man and woman that you are. All of you hearing what I'm saying right now. I'm holding to focus. So to the Alfarian, the Fae, the Elementals, the Totems, the true benevolence, and humans who are hearing what you are here. You are being hailed beyond the lockdown. You are being hailed past the triangulation of bullshit propaganda that still tricks the minds of humanity in order to keep them in this equation. And without the dragon and the key, just like Max stated, in order to dismantle this, they're not getting the fuck out. And all the things that keep depleting you, taking you into fear, taking your life force energy, all of that shit that's worked to steal your attention in all the ways that it does. If there's no recompense to my experience here, contrast in this reality field with all of the years of my life and dedication and commitment, at the very least, anybody out there hearing this, you've got to see it for what it is. You've got to look into it. This has to be chosen. We must choose to be chosen. We must choose to be whole. We must choose. It's a choice. And all these different choice points that individuals make, no matter where it goes, this right here. In the context of things that are way beyond this, yeah, I'd love to be able to share. If you don't know about things in terms of this picture I'm sharing and what I'm saying, again, I get it. The difference is, though, if they, in terms of individuals, do not know this, cannot access what's beyond it. So again, it's protected in terms. And to that, the question remains, what side of this geometrical equation are you on? Where are you? Who are you? What do you truly stand for? Where do your loyalties actually reside? What is the true cry of your eternal spirit to soul code, blood code essence that is there within your hearts? Or do all of you think that this kind of geometry is something that's quote unquote sacred, to which again the New Age movement pumped out on a massive psyop with even lesser equations tied into all of this? So in order to access that, we must do the real work in context to access that. It ain't going to happen on the other end of the equation. Why? Because they'd have to go and face their shit, everything their ancestors did or whatever. And the fact is, again, we can't access what they cannot access. If they were able to, they wouldn't do what they do. There's just no fucking way. And the key is, if anyone has actually accessed what is beyond in terms of your own codex, you're going to hear what I'm saying. You're going to feel what I'm saying. Now, question, has anything else worked here in reality on the level in terms of practical spiritual path work and its outwork in the reality on the level? And see, I don't simply claim any of this teaching as my own. Again, it's how truth has guided me in order for certain things to be revealed and confirmed. And the only things that will, as far as I'm concerned, you can take it or leave it, are the original teachings. Therefore, I encourage all of you out there to share some of the things that I presented. Again, I don't assume to have all the answers or the all truth. I want all of you to come back and blow my mind. See, that's how it flows. That's how it keeps on expanding. But to what has been revealed in terms of the original teaching, I have laced things out 20 steps ahead of all this bullshit in trajectory and started to do that years ago now. And right now, it is to address those that are hearing this. Most of what is being tracked on is the same fucking bullshit on the wheel in terms of what is in the center of the inverted equation that you see before you. And unto the norms and the fate of how you throw your spindle. Understand that the shadow dragon, Nithaga, must be slain, gnawing at the roots in context. And see, to the roots, again, the technology of the nervous system is the technology in terms of our physicality, to which we streamline sound, consciousness, energy, frequency, and vibration. Nithaga must be slain, and things in terms of the true universal tree of life, to the three spirals of creation, with what will be coming in the future for those that have already with what will be coming in the future for those that have already taken the initiation at ground level. All is tested, and we are also to give testimony in terms of what we have experienced. There's a lot more that I could say to this, but the focus of this specific segment is to encourage the dismantling of this equation in terms of overlay. You could even take it to the poem by D.H. Lawrence in terms of the assumed. Are you willing to be sponged out? If not, you will never really change. And see, all of this, it takes time. But as it states, as the phoenix renews youth in hot fluorescent ash with strands of down like floating ash, it shows that the individual is renewing their youth, renewing their essence, realizing who they are. And in terms, I've allowed myself to be stripped and streak across the cosmos from within myself and beyond. I have faced the underworld many times, and in truth, I really just want to dance here. I want to laugh authentically. I want to love authentically. I want to create authentically. I want to expand authentically and work to build up a certain joy and peace within myself in certain silences and reflection. And in terms of vibrational correspondence, I will still choose to be the blazing star that I am. And as unto you, be the blazing star that you are. This is what we must choose regardless of anything here. So to break and lift any curse bullshit off of ourselves and eventually and potentially the earth to this. Do this within yourselves in context to Ingwaz. Runes again being a major portion of the Fire Letter Codex. Remember that you also have the ability to access your own. And one thing to wrap this up, turn the goddamn Tesseract counterclockwise within that via 23.4 degree axis. Start turning it to that 90 degree, snap, crackle, and pop that shit. And when the key clicks to unlock the 7th gate to set back into alignment, all of that inverted fucking energy when it comes to Saturn, when this starts to happen, the integration of what is beyond, all of this will start to take place. And the more I see how the streamline of everything is connected to specific equations, the more I can see how clear it all fucking works. And see, it's way more simple than we have been directed to think otherwise. Like, oh, this is so fucking complicated. And yeah, it is, but not the dismantling of it. Again, in terms of focus, everybody, facing what it can and what it does bring up, but to recognize all the shit for what it is. This is what we have to let go. This is what's no longer serving our best interests as people here in terms of connection with ourselves and in terms of connection with one another. I hope some of this made sense. If anybody's interested in the Mystery School, then send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. Check out the services page on the website at blackearthproductions.com. Get a hold of me directly. There's a lot of things to dive into and explore on there. Whatever the case, recognize the difference here. If you want to know how things work and if you want to come to know thyself, this is the way to go. Again, I'm only one person, and there are certain students out there that are starting to come forth with segments of their own and teachings of their own, and this is what I encourage. Anybody out there that knows what the hell is really going on has to have a voice, especially in terms of the hour that we are in. And to that explosion that comes forth from the heart, this is where you are speaking from. This is where you are pouring forth from in terms of that Ace of Cups, that overflow. It's such a beautiful thing, because in terms of those waters, in terms of that Platonian energy, when it goes forth, and when it goes forth in alignment, it goes to quench the land, to bring renewal and true awakening in context with everything. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions. Again, be empowered, be encouraged.